This is Tech Addicts. This week, news from the Apple event. The Honor X40 confuses, Google do a deal with Samsung over Android 12L, the PlayStation Vita gets mentioned twice, and Microsoft work wonders with your SMS. Hello and welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I'm your host Gareth and this is Ted. How are you, Ted?
I'm too hot.
Oh.
So I've got my fan on. Hopefully you can't hear it and it's not going to impinge on everyone's enjoyment. But yeah, the summer just won't go away. Weather report up top. It won't go away and it's just lingering. Go away, summer.
It is, yeah. It is quite strange. Now, we can't hear, or at least I can't hear your fan. Maybe the listeners might feel differently. But yes, I was out cutting the grass yesterday, which is something that I should have finished doing at the end of August.
Right.
But no, it's the 11th of September. Oh, it's the 11th of September, right? 2022, which is an anniversary, I suppose. But I was cutting the grass yesterday in searing heat because it was about 20 degrees. Mm. That's scary.
Yeah. Shame on you, because you're a tech addict and you should be having a robot lawnmower, sending it out there and letting it do its own thing.
Unfortunately, the Tech Addicts Podcast does not net us millions of pounds. In fact, it creates a deficit in my bank account. Yes, I can't afford a robot-y type thing. I do have a wife, but she refuses to do it. So I have to do it. I've had a son.
Yes.
He's blossoming, but that's like a 13-year investment before you can let them go on the lawnmower, or thereabouts. Maybe you may disagree, but my lawnmower's quite big. I'm not letting him, because it's quite expensive as well, until he's about 13. And even then, I'll only get about 5 or 6 years before he decides to leave and go and, I don't know, get married and get a lawn of his own to maintain, and then he'll have to breed a child.
Lovely. May you be happy with your lawn forever.
Yeah.
We once bought a sit-on lawnmower, a little kind of, small grass one, and it was about second-hand. It was about $3,500 or something. That could be an answer.
It could be. I had thought about one of those before, but I have 3 lawns, and they're not easy to get from one to the other, so I really need to push one so I can get it up and over, because there's a driveway down the middle of 2 of my lawns, and then round the back, I have to have a fairly narrow machine to be able to get through the gate to get to the back garden.
We'll do a robot special one day, because I'm sure that those robot thingies are cheaper than you probably think they are.
Yeah, we used to do them all the time on Talk Sport, actually. We would talk about them because there were always something more interesting. There was a video of someone who was out with their robotic lawnmower and they were following it around with an umbrella so that it didn't get wet because it was cutting the grass in the rain.
What an idiot.
Totally. I think she was from England.
Steve got one for his dad before his dad sadly died, and I remember him bringing it to Whatever Works one time, and it seemed to work all right. And I've got a feeling it was like about, I don't know, 150 quid or something. It wasn't like 800 quid. And I seem to remember him saying that it worked very well.
Right, I'll have to go and have a look at that video. Maybe it was Steve and not a woman.
Yeah. No comment.
Sorry, Steve.
Hello,
just kidding.
Steve.
All right. Well, we're going to go into... There's no feedback this week. What's happening to you all? Actually, I would like to ask people, because I'm starting to do this. I've got a few things lined up that I'm going to take forward because of the whole cost of living crisis and things like that. I've bought myself a few heaters, and I'm going to have a look at them over the next couple of weeks. And I'd like to get some tips and suggestions from people out there on things to do that technology could help you with going forward in the cost of living, because there's a lot of people who are just saying turn everything off. It's like, well, that will save you money. But there's a few things that are worth replying to that. I was talking to a lady that I work with, and she says she now turns her broadband router off at night. And I pointed out that this isn't the best idea that you've ever had, dear lady, because if a number of people do that on the same street as you, then perhaps BT or whatever your service provider may be, or common service provider may be, you may end up registering a fault, and they'll come out and try to repair your line and realise that there's nothing wrong with it, which will probably inadvertently put your bills up because there's more people turning off their routers. It's one thing that you should try and keep on as much as possible, but you can go into the settings and play around with them and turn off LEDs and stuff like that.
And also, if you do that, then the network will think that the demand is less and make it worse most of the time, in my humble opinion.
Well, I suppose that's quite right, yeah. But I'm going to come back to another tip that I might have for you guys later on, which is a very obvious one. That's one that I've barked about for many years, but it's something that will hopefully help some people out there. But if you have one that you think is really quite good, do let us know. Drop it into either the MeWe group, or you can email me at gareth@techaddicts.uk, or chuck it at me on Twitter at Gareth Miles, MYLES for Miles there. Or Ted as well. He's very online and can get in touch with him quite easily.
I'm only online.
Yes, he doesn't actually exist in this world. He's a separate entity entirely that lives inside of his computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. All right, moving into the hard line for the hardware, where we're going to start off with something that we don't talk about very often on here, but I thought we may as well this time around, because there's a couple of developments here that I think are quite interesting, and that's that Apple had an event product launch during the week, and we got to see the iPhone 14, the Apple Watch 8, and the AirPods 2, and what was the other thing? The
Ultra. The Watch Ultra.
The Watch Ultra. Ah, yes, of course, yes. And there was quite a few things that they did launch. Nothing particularly radical, but there was a few sort of improvements and things like that. Inside of the iPhone, they've put in the things like, there's camera improvements as you would normally expect, but at the same time, they've also put in car crash collision detection and emergency satellite calling and stuff, which is something we spoke of, was it last week or the week before, Ted?
It's different to what we spoke about, though, because it's like emergency, get one message out, not the Starlink T-Mobile deal, which kind of fills in the gaps when you go out of network range. It's a bit different to that.
Right, okay. But I had also noticed, I can't remember if it was on my Pixel or something, but there was something that came up that Google was doing car crash detection as well.
They are. It's in your Pixel, but the trouble is that it wasn't rolled out outside of America, and I've got a Pixel here, and I'll see if it's there yet, and maybe you can check as well. But
I'll tell you what I will do is
car crash detector. Where is it?
I just threw it at the floor and nothing came up.
So yeah, I've actually got mine is available here in the UK now. Although, and then you have to assign. That's right. You have to assign a contact, and I've already done this. I'd forgotten all about it. I put my mum's phone number down as the contact if I have a crash. So you'll find it inside Safety and Emergency, which is inside Safety and Emergency, which is inside. That's it. It's off of the main settings. Safety and Emergency. Look for it.
I will. Yes, sir. Consider it looked for.
Yes. Anyway, so that is supposedly working in the UK as well, and I don't know how many other countries.
Excellent. And nothing came up there whenever I threw my phone at the floor, which is a bit disappointing.
It's a bit of a worry.
What can you do? It is, yeah.
The Apple Watch Ultra looks a right beast, doesn't it? It's 850 quid's worth of watch, and it's made like a tank. and every possible thing on it that you could possibly want, and a whacking great big battery. And when you see it on someone's wrist, it just looks completely absurd and stupid. Although some divers were testing it out, because it's also, you can use it for diving, and they were saying that it's fantastic. And actually, most diver watches are huge anyway. It's just a rugged smartwatch, really, and with a rugged price.
I love it. This is the one thing that I'm really excited about. I've banged on about how smartwatches are getting sort of daintier and prettier, and the likes of the Pixel Watch is a complete turn-off for me. This, however, is something that I would happily wear on my wrist and be able to fend off, mobsters and things like that with.
It's manly.
It is. It's as tough. Hopefully, it's as tough as I expect it to be, and it's not going to fall apart whenever I start to try to mend my sink or whatever. But from the looks of it, it looks really chunky, and I love it. I hate the band that's on it though. That is in the adverts.
Right. You'd have to jump ship, of course, and head for Apple to make full use of that. I don't know if it will work to some degree with Android. I doubt it somehow.
Well, I'm just hoping that, the likes of Samsung will notice this and go, hang on a second, we've been making tough stuff for years. Why haven't we made a really tough smartwatch?
Yeah,
Let's get on that.
Yeah, I'm sure they will, won't they? The other thing the other thing everyone's talking about is the dynamic island. The dynamic island, which actually I think looks quite neat, and it's a really nice idea. The way it resizes itself and morphs into different shapes, and all in the quest to hide the camera basically, and not have a notch, inverted commas. And I think that's a really nice idea, nicked to some degree from LG a few years ago. But did you see that in action?
I did, yeah. It's obviously, in response to the problems that they've had in the past, but it's doing something different again, and that's one of the nice wee things. It's a software update, though. It's not exactly something that's really the warrants being put into a new generation of phone.
Well, you've got to have the camera in the right place for it to work, and screen above it.
Yes, yeah. But it's something that is quite obvious going forward. It's one of those little jobs that have been brought in here as well, and little updates that makes, I guess, a big event worthwhile because they've got so many smaller ones. Yeah,
but apart from that, I think you're quite right. Most of it's quite boring, and it's incremental, very incremental. I don't know about the AirPods Pro 2, the Buds. Did anything in there?
Well, I did see something this morning pop up to say that there was possibly going to be lossless support for them.
Oh, right. Okay.
Which that's nice.
They get a new H2 chip with low distortion audio driver and custom amplification for improved sound. 6 hours of playback. That's criminal, isn't it? However small they are, 6 hours. Nonsense.
But they're saying that's 1.5 hours more than it was before. I don't remember them being 4.5 hours before.
That's terrible. They need to get onto this. This battery tech needs to get its finger out.
But they are dinky, so it's got to have a little dinky battery in there. That's amazing, the amount that they're squeezing out of such a little dinky battery.
If they had a drop of nuclear fusion oil in there, then
that's one way, yeah. Thankfully, they haven't done that yet, and Ted, your ideas can be shelved. All right. Well, yep, Apple, all to play for. It's another somewhat exciting year, but I wouldn't say people are going to get too bent out of shape over it. It's 14, though, is a long time to be producing one particular... Google have even given up. They did Nexus for a while, and they went, right, that's enough of that. Now we're up to the Pixel 6 and Pixel 7. They've got to get rid of it fairly soon, and bring in a whole new name as well, because I'm getting a bit tired of 14. You can't remember the significant differences between the iPhone 8 and the iPhone X, can you?
There's no way they'll ever drop the name iPhone. They're not. They wouldn't do that. There's much more chance of Google dropping Pixel than Apple dropping iPhone.
But even the idea of Police Academy dropped the 7 for Mission to Moscow because it was getting so done and routine. Friday the 13th dropped their numbers. Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween all dropped their numbers. Sometimes they would switch from Roman numerals to conventional Anglo-Saxon numbers, or whatever you call them, or Arabic, in 6 and 7 as opposed to V and 3, I. That kind of thing.
I get the idea, yeah.
Yeah. So, Police Academy's a wee bit ahead of Apple here.
Obviously, that's so successful.
Absolutely, yeah. Good one, Steve Gutenberg.
Anyway, Apple event. I wasn't kind of glued to it because I'm not an Apple fan, but those around me were, and they seemed to be kind of mildly enthused by what was announced. So we'll see what the actual hardware is like when it arrives. Our guest on on PSE last night, he reckons his is arriving on Friday, so this coming week we'll get some people with hands on.
Oh yeah, that it was a particularly Apple flavoured phone show yesterday. And James, didn't you, James Honeyball?
Yeah, that's right. I tried to drag it away from Apple, but failed.
I'll have to have a listen and see what you can get excited about there, because mildly, I think, is the big word going forward, and it's going to get milder and milder as the years go on, and as we get into the 20s for the iPhone.
Until they start folding. Have you seen this big campaign that Samsung have done? It's so childish, isn't it? Just having a poke at Apple and putting these adverts out with people folding things. There was one I saw where they had these 4 people and they were using their flip phones to clap, clapping, using them as hands. It is funny, but it's just really childish, isn't it? And stupid and exacerbating the kind of platform war.
2 seconds here. It's warm today, but I'm going to have to close the window because I'm getting wet. It's really
rain! You lucky bastard!
But I have to close the window. It's hot in here.
Oh, right, that's the other.
This is torture now. Oh.
That's the tropical climate. Get used to it. It's coming to Britain. Hot weather and wet weather.
Yeah, hot, thundery showers.
Yeah. It's like living in the tropics.
I should be freezing my knackers off right now. No, they've gone up the temperature. I suppose this is one way to get around the cost of living problems. Just keep the temperature, the thermostat for the country up so that the sun's out more often. That way people don't have to rely on Russian gas.
Yeah, except that they're going to then try and put air conditioning units on. Or fans, like in my case.
We don't have air conditioning here in the UK.
Well, I've got one. I've got a mobile unit, and it works really well. But I am aware that every time I relent and turn it on, it is, I'm using lots of electricity up, and it's not helping the country and the feed. Talking of Russian gas, apparently, I saw in the news today, it's being sold to China, and China are reselling it back to Europe.
Oh, flip, right, okay.
I suppose it's not funny, really, but...
And then whenever they start fracking, they'll be selling the shale gas to China, and then China will sell it back to us again.
Yes.
Right, okay.
China got in on the act. We can make some money out of this, they sit and say, in Beijing. Russia doesn't want to supply Europe, but we will. We'll get it from Russia, and then flog it at a profit.
Good call. Well, actually, one thing they do sell at a profit is the Honor X40.
Oh, sorry. Back on track.
The X40, this is a new OLED display Android smartphone. And I wanted to talk about it a wee bit because I was having a look at the... Oh, balls, I've forgotten the name of it. Is it DSX, DSP? That camera list.
What?
The DX camera rankings thing.
DxO.
DxO, that's the one. I was having a quick check to see what was top of the rankings at the moment, and I noticed that the Honor Magic 4 is at the top of this. So it perked my ears up. The Honor X40 is coming as well, which is going to launch alongside of a 14-inch laptop later this month. But I wanted to just have a quick look at some of the specs that we can expect to see in the new Honor that's coming, because Honor's still a brand that ultimately forgotten about, but they're still really good. You know, we do tend to talk a lot more about Apple, Google Pixels, and Xiaomi's and things like that, but Honor's always kind of sitting in the background, a wee bit forgotten about, but a bit of a king as well when it comes to specs and imaging too. And it just took me by shock that the Honor Magic 4 Ultimate is sitting with a camera score of 146 at the top of the DxO mark. And the display is sitting at 95, which is pretty darn good. But yes, the DxO has a higher end counterpart, and its higher end counterpart, the the X40i.
I was going to say, looking at the specs, I'm finding the X40i, but not the X40. Is that
I think
different?
it's the X40 5G, but the X40, yeah, I'm just noticing. I hadn't noticed the I before, and I thought I'd just go along and include it in case it had been that way all along. But you've called me out on it.
No. I just couldn't find the X40 in GSM Arena, but the X40i came up. But it might be that it's too new to be on there yet.
I think it is, yeah, because it says it's the higher end counterpart to the X40i.
Okay.
So dropping the I makes it bigger and better. But it's obviously 5G, and it's looking like it's going to be a bit of a top notch thing with
a
Matrix AI Vision camera on there as well.
I got it. Snapdragon 695.
51,000 or 5100 milliamp hour battery.
Yeah. Which is 1080p, 120 hertz refresh rate. There's not much about it, to be honest. This isn't the one that's got the variable aperture, is it? I think that's the Huawei phone, isn't it? There's one of them's got with a variable aperture. What actually looks quite interesting because it's not just dual stage aperture settings. It looks from the video I saw as if there are at least a good number of steps across the range of the aperture. So that looks interesting. But if it is a Huawei, it's a shame because there's no GMS.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the big reason is they have the star ring camera bump. Which is being carried over, so it's going to have some sort of pumped up star ring camera system that the X40i seems to be doing quite well with. And if Honor put that camera from the Magic 4 Ultimate in there as well, that'll be a pretty top quality device. There's going to be 3 colors, but because we're going to see this later in the month. It's an exciting one to look forward to, along with a laptop that they're going to announce at the same time. So I'll be interested to see what's going on there. It's one to watch.
It's a bizarre naming convention, isn't it? Because if we were doing this, we'd say, well, right, okay, we'll put the Honor X40 out, right? And then 3 months later, we'll put the X40i out. Not round the other way.
True.
Yes.
Well, I have found a few more specifications actually here. The rumoured specs are that it's going to have a 6.67-inch screen, 120 hertz, 10-bit colour support, and an 8-megapixel selfie snapper, and it's going to be the 50-megapixel rear camera with a 2-megapixel auxiliary camera around the back.
One of these days, the stockroom is going to run out of 6.67-inch screens, and we get away from them.
Yeah, you'll be happy about that day, won't you?
Yeah.
All right, so Nokia are going to be doing a couple of new laptops as well under the PureBook brand. The Nokia PureBook Fold 14.1, the Nokia PureBook Pro 15.6, and the Nokia PureBook Fold 14.1. Hang on a second, that doesn't work. That's the same one as before. Oh, the PureBook Lite and the PureBook Pro and the PureBook Fold. So those are the 3 that you're getting. Right, okay. Should we be excited about these, Mr. Ted?
Well, only because it's got the Nokia brand on it, and it looks really nicely made. It's got a great big trackpad on it, a backlit keyboard on some of the models, the Pro models. The 17.3-inch device is clearly the top one, and both of the Pro models are running this i3 chipset, which apparently has been beefed up now and is much better than you would expect it to be as the world moves on to i5, i7, i9, or whatever else is out there. And, all running Windows 11 out of the box, 512 gigabytes of storage on the Pro models, 8 gigs of RAM. Nothing about whether you can update them, however, upgrade them. I don't know if you'll be able to, put some more RAM in it, for example, or it depends how physically small it is and how accessible it is, I suppose, as to what you can do with it. But they do look very attractive, nicely made. I remember Nokia laptops. They tried this a few years ago. Probably a decade ago, and I was very enthused then, but they never went anywhere with it. And it looks nice colours as well.
Yeah, well, I think the PureBook Lite version is going to be a very budgety one. It's only got a battery capacity of 38 watt hours. It runs the Intel Pentium processor N6000, but it has 8 gigabytes of RAM, the same as the Pro. But only 128 gigabytes of storage as opposed to 512 on there.
Yeah.
But it's going to be running Windows 11, so it'll be interesting to see how well that does. The Fold is pretty much the same as the Lite, but with a touchscreen instead of a non-touchscreen. It's a wee bit bigger. But yeah, the specifications are just as bottom of the line.
That's strange, isn't it? The only one that has got a touchscreen is the 14-inch Fold. You'd think that they put the touchscreen in the bigger ones,
But they aren't hugely attractive laptops by any stretch of the imagination. I'd be more interested in the Fold and the Lite if they run quite well on that Pentium processor, but they're cheap to boot. The PureBook Pro 17.3 with a fairly weedy i3. There isn't an i5 or an i7 option.
I was saying just now that apparently the i3. I was reading that they've sprinkled some magic dust on it, and they've revamped it or something.
They've overclocked it.
Is that what it is?
Probably.
They've done something with it to make it appear to be like an i5 or an i7 or something. But you know about these things more than I do.
Well, in order to pull more juice out of it, they probably likely have upped the cooling and overclocked it a wee bit to get it to run a few cycles faster than what it was before.
Oh, here you go. The chipset is expected to outperform any Ryzen 5000 and perform close to the 10th generation i7 processor.
Right, perform close an i3 that performs close to an i7. But then 10th generation. What generation are we in now?
This is the i3 1220p version, the latest generation of the i3 chip. I read somewhere else that they had done some magic with it. So anyway, I don't know.
As long as it's fairly cheap, they can't ask for too much. Someone in the comments has said that the i3 1220p is a really good processor, budget processor, and it will not just outperform the 10th i7, it'll even outperform the 11th gen i7 as well.
Right. There you are.
And it's faster than the M1 and M2 in the MacBook Air. And then the next comment is someone saying how that person is talking bollocks.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so we're none the wiser. Great.
No.
So,
the M2 is twice as fast as the 1220p.
Yes.
It's all about value and budget. There's no mention of money here, is there? Or have I missed that? There's no pricing on any of this.
No, there isn't yet. No, it needs to have a price attached to generate any enthusiasm toward it at all. And if it's anything sort of £500 or above, then see ya. Bye. Absolutely. Right, okay, so Chatter is a DIY encrypted wireless communicator, Ted, and it's a fun little sort of calculator-looking communication tool. Should people get excited about the fact that it's down to $150?
This is all about Geeky Gadgets trying to push their sales and get some affiliate link stuff going on. But what was interesting about it was this little device, which people can play with, and it keeps away from the normal network. So it provides a bit like a walkie-talkie. It provides its own network, but it's got a range of up to about 5 miles. They are sold in pairs, I think. So you text.
They need to be.
Yeah, exactly. So you can send very basic messages on this little calculator-looking device to someone else that's got one. It completely stays away from any Wi-Fi or cellular network, nothing at all. It works completely outside the scope of corporations and the internet and everything else. And, it just looked quite like an interesting little toy, really, and an interesting experiment into what people can do in terms of communicating. I can imagine you getting a couple of the, if you're wealthy, getting a couple of these for your kids for Christmas, and they'll have great fun with it, playing about with it for about 10 minutes, then get their smartphone out.
Well, yes, and, it opens up that whole conversation about, should this really be allowed, because you'll get sort of human traffickers and things like that picking up these sorts of things, and people coming across the English Channel, communicating via these things.
I never thought about that.
It's my mind instantly goes toward child abductors and things like that, and paedophiles and that sort of stuff. They can use these things to communicate because they tend to work through nefarious technologies like this in order to keep away from things. Because if they're using WhatsApp or Signal or any of those sorts of things, then there is a chance that it could eventually be tapped in by the government and they could get found. So these kinds of things probably will help them, and
I
it's
guess
a bit
so.
worrying.
Yeah, within 5 mile range though. I just thought it looks like it's a kid's toy, doesn't it? And it felt to me as though it was a stocking filler kind of thing for wealthy people, for people to play about with. But don't know.
But but you have to put it together yourself.
Yeah,
it doesn't arrive it arrives in pieces.
Even
and
more
a bit
fun.
Flat pack technology.
Even more fun. Christmas morning will be past.
Good grief. I hate Christmas morning for having to put batteries in things, let alone having to actually sit down and construct a piece of... How do the buttons work? They don't have anything written on the buttons, I'm just noticing. It looks like it's a T9 keyboard.
Yeah, it does.
But there's no numbers.
You can assign them to whatever you like, probably. It looks like a Raspberry Pi project, doesn't it?
It does, and then you have to write on them in Tipex. A, B, no, 1, 2, 3.
I don't know. Stop digging too deeply. It looks like fun.
I think where you say that kids will enjoy this for 15 minutes, I think it'll be even less.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Interesting. They are interesting, yes, but I think they'll just end up in the hands of the people who will misuse them or use them for nefarious reasons.
Okay.
All right, one thing that is a bit more exciting is the idea of a Raspberry Pi 400 laptop. The Raspberry Pi 400 was that big sort of keyboardy type thing with a red underside and a white top that had a Raspberry Pi inside of it, and people could use it to be an actual sort of portable computer, or you could put an Amiga emulator on there and then plug it in. That's what I had aspirations of doing before the Amiga Mini came, or the A500 Mini arrived. But yeah, you could use it as a computer and do whatever you need to, because there's a full compatible keyboard there for you to use. So someone has invented an 11.9 inch touchscreen LCD display to put on here, but it's not a full size display. This is a much smaller display. Ted, tell us about it.
I don't know. It just seems bizarre to me, and the reason that I pulled the story out was because it looks bizarre. It's a full width touchscreen, which you would kind of plonk on the back of the 400, but it's only about 2 inches high, or what is it, 3 inches? No, not even 3 inches, is it? So it's got this long kind of letterbox screen, like you're using a Nokia communicator on Symbian Series 80 again, and I don't know how much use it'll be really. Very, very odd indeed, going back to kind of Scion days or whatever. I'm sure that some people will like it, but I don't know, I'm throwing it back at you.
Well, there are, from time to time, using Raspberry Pis around the house, I do find myself going, oh, there's something wrong with that one, and I have to disconnect it, bring it all the way up, and find a screen to connect it to be able to see what's happening with it. This is sort of a wee bit of an answer to that, where you can just take it down and plug it in to a Raspberry Pi, but this one's specifically designed for the 400. So you can plug it in and quick, at a glance, see what's happening there. Or if you need it to just display constant information at you, you're not going to be sitting down to watch a movie on this or play retro games or something like that. But you will be able to diagnose some stuff on here. So I'm sure the likes of, say, for example, Mr. Barton would have good use for this going forward.
You say specifically designed for, but if you look at the photograph further down, it looks like it's been riveted to the back of it. And it's got this kind of plate thing going on. And I don't know, yeah, as you say, I mean, Ian Barton might have more idea about what this is about.
Yeah, using a computer that you can't actually see is one of the big problems with Raspberry Pis, because it doesn't have a screen.
Yeah,
it doesn't have a keyboard and it doesn't have a mouse. This just builds more of a computer that's on the go, that you can plug in and do stuff here, there, and everywhere.
Jolly good fun.
I quite like it. I think I would have one, but I would have virtually no use for it. Anyway. Google has agreed, apparently, this is I think this is nonsense, but yeah, okay. Google agreed to work on Android 12L, provided Samsung continue to make a foldable device every year. Ted, tell me that's not bullshit.
Well, apparently Samsung's VP, Yu Jin Hong, was sitting in a room with the Google employees, the product teams, and they were batting it around the room and having great fun, looking forward to all sorts of things, full of passion and full of wows. This is awesome. And they're claiming that that Google said to Samsung in this meeting, we will continue to develop Android 12L as long as Samsung will commit going forward to continuing to make at least one folding device a year. We do know that, Google, we think that we know that Google are working on foldable devices of their own, and it could be plausible, so this article reads, that Google wanted Samsung to spearhead the movement to smooth out the road for the release of their own devices. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably a load of claptrap. Thank you, Android Authority. But it was quite interesting as an idea.
It was. On the other side of that, it is a wee bit kind of only 12L. They didn't do a deal for 13L.
There's no 13L. But 13 will be including the foldable stuff. So I think that the 12L though thing is still alive. That Samsung have now rolled it out to the Flip and the Fold. I've got the Flip 3 here, and it's been rolled out to that. The trouble is, on the Flip 3, you can't really make much use of it because you need a bigger screen. Microsoft are going to be rolling out next month, we think, in October, to the Surface Duo, and 12L is kind of still alive, but eventually we feel as though it's going to be rolled into 13, and 13 will pick up those bits and pieces. I've got a Pixel now on the Q what's it beta, which I can never remember the letters of, and I'm about to start testing that, so I'll see what if anything is in there. If you change the screen resolution to 600 DPI or whatever it is, you can actually see how far they've got with what they're doing with 12L. So experiments ahead.
Yeah. And wasn't it on this very show last week we were saying about how the Galaxy Tab S8 is getting 12L rolled out to it instead of 13? It
is. It's currently got it. And I do believe they've pushed it back to the 7 now, and the 7 Lite, is it, or something? It's gone down to beyond just the 8 now, I think. So Samsung are working on this, and when you see a story like that, you think to yourself, oh, maybe it's true. Perhaps they are, maybe Google are twisting Samsung's arm to stick with foldables.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll see going forward what happens there. Android's a murky business in this weather. It really is. Okay, Ted, I saw you put this on the MeWe group, and I have to say it looks fantastic. Over on Yanko Design is a retro modern record player that is, well, vertical. Tell us about it.
We've seen vertical record players before, many of them, including the really good quality one from Project. But the reason I picked up on this was because they're claiming that the screen on this device, if it's ever made, incidentally, I think this is a concept at this stage. The screen on it, the big screen on it, will give you the data as if you're watching or listening to YouTube Music or Spotify, now playing track, who it is, what it is. So, I mean, there's no data in LP records that is going to give that information across, which means that it would have to be connected to the internet. It would have to pick up on the stream of music that it's hearing in the way that Now Playing does in Pixel devices. Go off to the internet, find out, have a guess at the information, and then put it up and download the album art and put it on the screen. But yeah, you're right, it looks good. The other concern I've got, as always, is the quality of the stylus. I mean, they're claiming that the stylus is going to be a very good one if it's made, and top quality, and that it'll have less pressure on the vinyl because it's upright. But, I mean, who knows? We've seen crappy, dreadful styluses and tone arms on lots and lots of devices. But it's an interesting article, and there's loads of interesting photographs, breakdowns of this thing, which looks like it may at least have been. They've at least made one of them,
or they've just they've rendered one of them.
Yeah.
I do like the fact that it says on the back of it that it's vertical, in case you do get some person coming along and can't quite work out what to do. In order to get their horizontal record in there. But the front of it seems a bit strange. I'm wondering if that's a piece of glass that you can see through, that it projects the name of the record and how long it's playing. And you can look in and actually see the record that's turning.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you look carefully at the very top picture on this, it shows you the Frank Sinatra record, and it says together at a bit of a strange angle.
Yeah.
And the other pictures tend to show the record sort of sticking out on the side.
Yeah, it's see-through, isn't it? You're right.
Yeah, so a transparent screen on it, which I do like. I would love them to put this into production, because it would be a real head-turner in a living room.
Yeah, definitely. Let's hope the speaker's decent as well if it's made, and that it's not like 1,500 quid.
Well, it has line outs on the back, so you can just hook it up to the amp, which I have to say, unfortunately, I mentioned it yonks ago, but my Amstrad amplifier died last week.
Dear.
It did. This is the one that Alan Sugar, or Lord Sugar, personally tweeted me about whenever I took a picture of it.
Oh dear.
And he said that's a lovely looking unit. But it's dead.
Oh, that's very sad. You'll have to get another one. Think of the excitement of getting a new one.
A new one?
Yeah.
I have to go and try and get another Amstrad one.
Yeah, exactly.
I know how this one works.
What's it? There's a photograph further down this page. You see it next to that very old Victor record further down, which looks like it's some sort of radio. I don't quite see where that fits in with a drop-down panel. Is that actually inside the device? No.
No, I think they're showing off examples of other vertical players.
Oh, they okay. Forget
because the one above it is a different player altogether.
Okay, ignore me then.
So that's one you side load, because I think Amstrad did do one very like that, where you put the record in, then you close it up, and you could play it. Or maybe it dropped down and there was a turntable there. That's what it was. You just closed it up vertically.
I wonder if it will work on its back. I suppose that depends. If you laid it down flat, I suppose it depends which way the stylus goes. If the stylus comes to the record from the back of the machine, which it probably does, then laying on its back will not work very well because gravity will pull it away.
Well, true. And they do have some pictures of it playing whilst on its back.
Do they?
But maybe it's just streaming. Maybe it's got streaming function in there as well, where you can get Spotify to work on it or something, or YouTube Music.
Very exciting.
Yeah. But it'll be a stupid amount of money whenever it comes out because it's attractive and looks like something that people would want. All right. YouTube Player is going. This should be in the floppy trap about an app section. Dear goodness, what's it doing here?
Yeah. Would you like
We'll talk about it anyway because I've already started, and we're seasoned professionals, and we can deal with this kind of thing and not crap ourselves whenever it pops up. YouTube Player is going to be an educational. There's going to be an educational version of YouTube Player that allows people to watch YouTube education-focused videos in the US and Korea ad-free, which is a very nice idea, to be honest. There's nothing worse than having... My son would use them from time to time to work out how to do something. He'd go on and check. And I suppose I do as well, to learn how to do something. And a large portion of education is through YouTube, where the teacher maybe doesn't do it quite so well in class, and it requires someone to go and find out a better way of being able to explain how to do something on YouTube. And you find all kinds of different ways, and hopefully one of those approaches will help you toward learning how to do something. So YouTube are capitalizing on this and doing a player for education, which is dedicated to that sort of thing, that won't have ads interrupting, and obviously a bit like YouTube Kids, it won't allow you to access other content that's available on YouTube. And it could be a very, very nice way to get YouTube into the classroom more so. Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. And it looks like they're going to be encouraging creators to put courses in there as well. So it looks like they're going to turn YouTube into what was it, the BBC Open University stuff. When in the 1970s, you turned BBC Two on at 2:00 in the morning, and it's just back-to-back boring lectures from these absent-minded professors. Presenting stuff very badly, and perhaps they're creating an up-to-date version of that. And yeah, I agree, it's good. It's a shame it's only in US and Korea for the moment, but it is in beta, and they are saying they're going to expand it to more countries. And yes, you're quite right, for the likes of your son and other people in education, it'd be great. There does seem to be some sort of commitment by Google and others to address the education market, get people when they're young, I suppose, get them into a Google account and lock them in for life. So when they finish their education, they'll continue to use the Google products. I suppose that's what it's about.
Yeah, it'll be a lot cheaper than, I suppose America's gone and forgiven all student debt anyway, so it'll be a lot cheaper than having to buy textbooks and things like that, depending on what country you're from.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Now into serious business here. China has made leaps forward when it's faced with the interesting pushback that the US has against their development of semiconductors. I think it was quite recently the US announced that Nvidia and AMD are not to be selling their semiconductors to China because they are concerned that they may work their way through the whatever way it is into their military hardware instead of actually just being regular sales. So they could be buying graphics card to help with their AI industry and when it comes to military. So China has actually taken steps toward this, and they have very, very quickly, I'd say they probably reverse engineered, but they've made significant steps towards changing from 14 nanometer semiconductors down to 7 nanometer processor semiconductor manufacturing, which is really quite quick. The likes of, say, Intel and things like that, they took years to be able to work out how to move from 14 nanometer to 7 nanometer by way of 10 nanometer as well. Whereas China has done it quite quickly. But then it's already existing technology, so they just need to break down what's already available and work out how to do it themselves. And it's a bit of a calling of the bluff, or whatever you want to call it, for the US, who's been trying to enforce this and take it away from China. So it's semiconductor wars that we're seeing happening at the moment, and China are taking a big step forward. Is there anything you wanted to say about it?
Well, yeah, and America's just blocking the whole thing as they, this all started under Trump and probably before, in terms of, not letting American and worldwide technology in the hands of China, and China are doing the same the other way. It's this, as you say, it's a battleground of technology. In the old days, this would have been a kind of guns out war, but now they're doing it by other means. It's also interesting that this article highlights the fact that Washington is working with partners in Taiwan and South Korea and Japan to move things forward from there. So whilst blocking China just round the corner, they're working with the part, and it also might have something to do with the way in which the whole crisis is kind of padding out between Taiwan and China. And that's not just about territory; it's actually about technology and control of the Taiwanese people and companies and what they're doing there. So it's all a bit complicated. I'm sure that I probably don't understand it anyway, if you do, but it's all to do with world economy and, as you say, military power.
Well, I think there are views out there that this is entirely to do with the semiconductor production in Taiwan and how the Americans are so reliant on it. They are talking about how they're setting up their own manufacturing warehouses in the likes of, where was it, Samsung had set up in North Dakota or North Carolina or somewhere like that. A large industry, but it's so much more expensive for them to do that. It might not be economically viable, so they need to wade in there. And it's a bit like Iraq and oil. This is Taiwan and semiconductors, and it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. Don't know. It's a hard one, and it's not the one that we would be fully versed in being able to handle or talk about at any length. And we recommend that you probably go and talk to someone a lot more intelligent than myself.
Yes.
But we'll keep an eye on it. And the one thing I am concerned about is the likes of graphics cards going back up in price, where they have come down quite nicely. They're almost at the levels that they should have been over the last couple of years. Not quite yet, but we'll be interested to see where NVIDIA and AMD end up planting their prices over the next couple of months this side of Christmas. Okay, the next up is the handheld Algiz. Algiz, I suppose what that said. The RT10, which is a rugged 10-inch Android tablet with 5G. Now, we talked about a rugged tablet last week because Samsung had brought one to the fray, but here's another one that Ted is excited about. Tell us about this one.
I'm not sure if I'm excited about it, really. It looks like a real building site tablet. Beyond, like the Nokia XR20 kind of territory, where you can just chuck it down a coal mine and it will survive. It is being released on Android 11, which it would have been nicer to see it on a bit more up to date than that. And who knows how long it will be supported. But it's got physical keys on it. It's like a step back in the past because this is specifically designed to be used by used with gloves in all sorts of weather conditions, temperatures up and down, in rain as well. So pouring rain, apparently, it will just continue working, and you'll be able to continue to touch the screen and use it. Physical buttons all round it, which is really unheard of these days. And apart from that, reasonable specs to be able to use it in all conditions. Super hardened glass, whatever that means. It doesn't mention Gorilla Glass, but you would think kind of Victus and beyond. Or maybe it's got a plate of, half-inch glass in front of the thing. But yeah, a no-name chipset involved. But it has got GPS and it's got GMS on it, so it's not like it's been locked out because it's just for Chinese markets. It's got all the stuff that you would expect if you were running a building site business or similar. where your employees are going to be chucking stuff about and not looking after it properly, and it will continue working. It looks really good. No pricing, of course, and we'll see what that turns out to be. And I'm sure the likes of us are not going to be looking to buy it, but in commerce and industry, I think it might be a bit of a hit.
Absolutely, yeah. With those, there's 3 dedicated function buttons, actual proper clicky buttons on the right-hand side. That it does remind me of old tablets that we first saw coming about when Android was being shipped out on original tablet hardware.
Yeah, and volume buttons too. Clicky volume buttons on the front there, and a proper power button. It's all to do with buttons, isn't it? And if you look at the edges as well, the build, there's obviously real rubber coating around the outside of the whole thing. Yeah, rugged is the word, I think.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure we'll cover this again one day. No, we won't actually. I can't imagine it being something that's going to suddenly appear on big tech trades and things like that we'll need to talk about. But over on 9 to 5 Google, there's an article about how Google is expanding sound notifications with custom alerts for any sound for the hearing impaired.
This should have been in Clap the Trap for an app as well.
I know, it should be. Who did this show this week? Shame on them.
This is quite a simple one, really. Up to now, you've been able to have notifications for people with hearing impairments, and you've had to trust Google to use its algorithms to work out what the sounds are. And what they're saying with this new change, which is a very brief one, is that you can record sounds. So if it's getting confused with, for example, your particular microwave oven and how it pings, or your particular fire alarm thingy and how it makes a noise, you can record that and put it into the device, into the app, and it will hold that information so it doesn't get stuff wrong. That's about it, really.
Excellent. Well, we'll move on. It does sound pretty good. The next is, I'm quite excited about this because the Lenovo Tab P11 Pro, 2nd gen, they didn't call it the P12 Pro, the 2nd gen of the P11 Pro, has gone on sale for $400 in the US. And it has an 11.2-inch OLED display. This is a good-looking tablet, and I have to say the trailer that's on there that you can watch on YouTube does make it look like a really desirable Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 alternative. It's got a 2560 by 1536 resolution display with 100% DCI-P3. It comes with an optional keyboard and has 4096 pressure-sensitive Lenovo Precision Pen available for it as well. It's a bright 600 nits display, and inside of it there is a new octa-core 2.6 gigahertz processor, which is a MediaTek Companion 1300T series with a Mali G77 GPU backing it up. It's got a benchmark score of around about 754 on single core and 2725 multi-core. So it's no slouch, but it's a wee bit higher than the likes of the Samsung Galaxy S7 FE. Tablet Monkeys notes. There's 4 gigabytes of RAM inside it, but there's also a 6 gigabyte of RAM model as well, which is $429, and you can get up to 128 gigabytes of storage in there as well. So it's a very nice looking tablet that has all the functions that you would expect, and some might describe the likes of the S8 as overkill when it comes to tablets. This is much more of a modest setup for a much lower price. Ted, you would be excited about this, I'm guessing.
It does look nice, yeah, and it's unfortunately that price doesn't include the stylus nor the keyboard, but those are both optional extras, so we've no idea how much they might cost. But also,
well, in a strange turn, where I've seen that Lenovo have been selling some of their tablets, they have sold them with, to try and maybe generate some enthusiasm, they have sold them with the stylus and the keyboard. Whenever I was trying to buy my P11 Plus, a lot of the deals that I would have got in America had I been buying it, I would have got the keyboard with it.
Oh, right.
But not in the UK.
Okay.
for around the same price.
Right, yeah.
Sorry.
Worth looking out for, certainly. The stylus, I don't know if you mentioned the stylus charges itself off the back. So, yeah, you did mention that, sorry.
No, I didn't.
But, okay,
yes,
so when you put the stylus on the back, it actually, by Qi charging, it will keep the stylus charged up from the battery inside. It's got Dolby Atmos and JBL speakers. But the interesting thing I thought was that Lenovo are committing to 2 years of updates, or rather, 2 OS updates. So it's arriving on... what is it arriving on?
It's arrived.
It's arrived on 12, Android 12. And
sorry, I think it's available now.
Lenovo has clearly stated, inverted commas, that this tablet will receive both 13 and 14. No mention about security updates. So you can probably imagine that 2 years to the day, Android 14 drops and they abandon it, because that's what they do. But even so, it's good that Lenovo Roller are actually maybe smelling the coffee and saying we need to actually say what we're doing and commit to this. It does look like a nice tablet, you're right. It looks like it's a good contender, and if you've got the confidence going forward, spending out on it, that it's going to give you at least 2 or 3 years of use, then it'll be much more like it. And it's a good price, as Lenovo stuff tends to be.
Yeah. And I know we've said in the past where there have been the odd model that they've put out where they've maybe offered this promise and then not quite delivered on it.
Yeah.
I do have the P11 Plus, and it's been updated to Android 12 a couple of weeks ago, and I'm having nothing but joy on that, because it was such a steal at the time. Despite the fact it didn't have the keyboard included, like I would have got in America for that price, but I can't complain about it. I'm really pleased with that. I look at it as a free tablet because I sold my S8 and still had money left over to buy myself some dinners and things like that.
How far behind is the security update? Do you know offhand?
Oh, I think it's up to June. I could check on it because I do have it beside me.
Yeah. But is it on?
Is the tablet on?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, good.
I am. Android version, doesn't it tell you in the Android version? Security update, 5th of June.
June, so yeah, that's not too bad, is it?
No. And Google Play system update is the 1st of July.
Very good.
Just for those that want to care.
Mm-hmm.
All right, going into Google's TV system, when they released, what was it called again? Chromecast with Google TV.
Yeah.
I excitedly went out and bought one of those, and since then it has had just, a bit of hate dumped on it because it just hasn't quite lived up to the expectation, because it's got a crap amount of storage on that, and whenever you start installing apps, it gets eaten up quite quickly. I've never had a problem with the amount of storage because, well, we don't have that many apps here in the UK to deal with it, but it quite happily does the networks that we need, or the streaming services that we need here in the UK, and little else. But they have now put together a new, slightly cheaper version of the Chromecast with Google TV that has popped up in photographs, and it looks somewhat similar to the current one, with slightly different shaped dongle-y thing that hangs from your TV, and it will retail for around $50. It has 2 gigabytes of RAM, and it's got an Amlogic chip inside of it with AV1 support, and it's less powerful than the 4K model that they put out, about 2 years ago, but it should support 1080p, hopefully. Ted, are you going to buy one of these, or are you just going to ignore it?
I'm trying to work out why this is, what's significant about this, except the price. Is that the only thing that's different about it, except that it's 1080p, obviously? It's a kind of downgraded version, cheaper version. It'll certainly suit me, because I'm not bothered about 4K. And, if they're knocking these out at $30, they're saying, then it's that's what it's all about, price, isn't it? It's knocking these out as cheap as they can and acknowledging that not everyone wants 4K. So it would have suited me when I bought mine, which incidentally sits in a drawer.
Well, whilst I don't use mine terribly often, I have, it is my main TV service provider on my TV that I have in my man cave here, my office here. But that TV's not on terribly often.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it. It works. It's the remote control is quite handy, and I do think it fits into your TV and tends to take on your TV's functions if you're prepared to sit there and tune them all in. So you can do your volume, and you can flip your AV input via the remote control, which is quite handy. But then not all of them do that. I don't think Roku does that. So you may have to bring your remote control with you in order to flip over from HDMI 1, 2, or 3 or whatever to get to your Roku. This will do it for you. Which is
my Roku does it automatically. If you press the home button, it turns it on, but you can't get away from it. So you can turn it on and it'll activate it. But if you want to go back to the TV feed, then you can't do that.
If I finish watching a Blu-ray movie on my Blu-ray player and think, I'll just go and jump onto YouTube and watch a bit of news or something like that, you would have to turn it off and then turn it back on again.
No, not that way round. It would work. You if you're using YouTube via the Roku stream bar, then you just press the home button and it jumps into it. But if you want to go back the other way to your DVD player, then I would have to press the source thingy on the telly to change it back.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So it's still one thing that a lot of people do, but the manufacturers just haven't bothered to take it into account. And I feel that Google did win there, where they function. There is a dedicated button on the remote control to doing that, and quickly. I'm still waiting for a remote control to come out with HDMI 1, 2, and 3 built into the actual remote control, so you don't have to skip through the HDMIs to change the channel. It's kind of like having a channel up button instead of having channel 1, 2, 3, 4. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would have been nice had Google sort of given us a wee bit more of an all singing, all dancing Google TV Chromecast. But instead, it's a cut down version of what they've already put out.
Yeah.
Which you can end up. Would you even buy this whenever the other one's $20 more?
Well, I probably would.
I know, but if you suddenly decided one day, there's a great deal on a 4K TV. Oh, balls.
If you're going to buy a 4K TV, I think you could then afford to upgrade your Chromecast.
I don't know. I have been seeing 4K TVs being sold for about £280 in the likes of Tesco and things like that. So,
fair enough.
Yeah, taking it with you as well. That's another option too for hotel rooms. Anyway, we'll move on to In the Name of the Game. We talked about the GPD Win 4 last week, and I got very excited and gushed about it for a while. We've got full specs on it now, which is quite nice, and I'll run through some of them. We knew about some of them before, but now we've got full specifications, so it's all the more exciting. It's a 6-inch 1920 by 1080p screen with a slider with a physical keyboard. It's got a touchscreen on there, keyboard and joysticks included. The Ryzen 6800U, which is what we were expecting, with 8 cores and 16 threads. So it is pretty darn powerful and does up to 4.7 gigahertz, which is very nice. It's got a graphics card, which is the AMD Radeon 680M. It either comes with 16 or 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is incredible. Imagine 32 gigabytes in this handheld. Wow. There'll be 2 storages available, one terabyte, and then the other is a 2 terabyte, which are NVMe SSDs, but it also has a micro SD card reader as well. There's a 45.62 watt-hour battery built into it, which should be good for a certain amount of time. Don't know how much, but yeah. There's one USB 4 port, which is 40 gigabits per second. There's one USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type C. There's one USB 3.2 Gen 2 Type A. And there's a 3.5 millimeter audio jack. It's got Wi-Fi 6 built in, Bluetooth 5.2, 4G LTE. Variant is optional. Stereo speakers. And it'll boot off Windows or Steam OS dual boot is supported as well, which is very, very nice. Oh, yes. Ted, you even more excited about this?
I was trying to work out what Hall sensors were. I suppose you know, don't you? I had to look it up. Hall,
What?
It says analog sticks now have Hall sensors, Hall, and I've put a link in the show notes to explain what that is. It's something to do with the way the switches work and magnets, and presumably it's making them more accurate in terms of use and stuff. But I'd never heard of that. Just thought I'd mention it.
No, I've never heard of it either.
Oh, right. Okay. But yeah, the device, as we were saying last week, just looks lovely, doesn't it? Who would say no to that? And it's just beefed up specs, and it's just like having a normal laptop, really, except it's smaller and it fits in your pocket. Well, it'd have to be quite a big pocket, I suppose, but even so, phones are getting bigger and bigger these days anyway. So a 6...
It's still going to be smaller than the Steam Deck.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. But the 6-inch screen, diagonal, presumably, then you've got another, inch and a half each end of that. So, yeah, you need big pockets. But it looks lovely, you're right. I want one. And I would fight you for it.
Okay, all right. Yeah, a fight it is then. There's still no mention of price.
No.
That's the big factor, obviously.
$2,500.
I don't think it'll be that much. Although someone in the comments is noting that there's no way this will cost less than $1,000. I think that's probably on the money there. Yeah. We'll look forward to it whenever the Indiegogo or whatever it is that they do goes live, and Ted will get his credit card out. Can't wait. Next up is the Pocket Star. What's the Pocket Star, Ted?
It's the smallest retro gaming emulating machine I've ever seen. No, actually, in this article it does make reference to this other one, which is called a Thumby, Thumby, which is the size of a postage stamp. But this...
Useful.
Yeah, this one looks like it's in the shape of a Game Boy, and it's got a tiny weeny little screen on it. It shows a picture of someone fitting it in the front coin pocket of their jeans. 0.95-inch colour OLED screen, 94 by 64, and it looks, it's all to do with retro, and it's another pocket, stocking filler, isn't it? For rich people at Christmas, and your kids will have 5 minutes fun with this and then move on. But it's strangely, investing in titles of their own, and they're actually saying that they're going to make available various ROMs and things, and they're expecting people to take it seriously and not just a stocking filler. I don't see a price anywhere, but I might have just missed it. But it's got, micro SD card slots, so you can get those games on it. A really odd little device. I mean, who on earth would buy one?
Absolutely, yeah. It shows it beside a Lego Man, which is
Yes.
the Lego Man's 3/4 of the height of the unit,
Yeah.
if you want to imagine that. So it's maybe about 2 inches tall.
You'd have to have really small fingers, wouldn't you?
But I'm also intrigued that you called it a coin pocket on the jeans,
Right.
which is the small pocket inside the bigger pocket.
Yeah. Is that not...
Coin pocket.
What do you call it?
A pocket watch pocket.
A pocket watch?
'cause that's what,
All right.
yeah, that's what cowboys used to
Oh,
use.
okay.
They would hold their watch in there
Okay.
back in the Old West.
I'll stand corrected then. But yeah, it just seemed like oh, here we go, price tag of $50. $50, really. But yeah, I think it would just be a fun little thing. I'm just quite surprised that they seem serious about developing it and putting ROMs in it and SD card, and actually expecting people to take it seriously instead of just a toy for what it is. But there you go.
Well, one of the videos, actually, there's a clip in the video that shows it running Wolfenstein 3D.
Right.
So it must be capable of running DOSBox as well.
Ah.
Because I don't think Wolfenstein 3D. I know they're working on it to come out in the Sega Master System, and they actually wanted to run at 60 frames per second on the Sega Master System. But wow, this runs DOSBox. That's pretty incredible, given the size of it.
And why would you put an OLED screen on it if you were making this? Surely an LCD would be perfectly good enough and cheaper as well. But they've obviously sourced these tiny screens from somewhere.
Yeah. It's interesting going forward. They've got to make it smaller and they've got to make it bigger at the same time. Yeah. All right. Next up is that Sony could be reviving their gaming smartphone lineup later this month. Now, we have seen that Sony are interested in putting out the likes of a client for Android, plus some hardware, so that you can access cloud streaming and remote playing on your PlayStation 5 via your phone. And I had a wee go at this using my GameSir during the week. And it worked quite well, because I'm rediscovering my GameSir now that it's working again with Android. And being able to do Xbox Game Pass, it now seems to be a race to be able to get people to play games on the go. And reviving their smartphone gaming setup is a one way to go. Ted, what do we have here?
Well, we don't know anything, actually. But Sony have put out this teaser about that.
No, we don't. But what other people in the world know?
The event is tomorrow, the 12th, Monday. Probably, knowing Sony, it's about 4 a.m. in our time. So by the time we wake up tomorrow, we'll know what it is. The teaser that Sony have put out confirms that it's a device made for pro gamers and streamers. And in the video, the teaser video, they're showing a professional esports team playing a game on a silhouetted device that appears to have shoulder triggers. And the idea here is, I mean, the what people are suggesting here is that it's a long time since the Sony Ericsson Xperia Play device, which you probably had as well as me back in the day, and they haven't had a kind of dedicated gaming thing going on. With a phone, it would seem, involved as well, since back in those days of the word play was applied to, I think, 2 or 3 Sony phones in the past. And do you remember the one where you had the sliding screen and the when it slid open in landscape, underneath it had it looked just like a Game Boy or whatever, and you had the hardware buttons on it. Then there was another one, I think, it did the same, but it was just a sheet of glass, and the buttons were virtual. I think that
the Xperia Play, yeah,
that was the Play, was it? What was the one with the buttons on it and the physical buttons?
Because that was the Xperia Play. It was very much similar to, around that time they revamped the PSP to the PSP Go, I think it was called, where you slid it up and you had access to the D-pad and the buttons on there. I'll stick a wee. You carry on talking.
I thought that there was a phone version of the Sony Play, Xperia Play, which also listen. Let me finish. Which also had physical buttons, and it wasn't just the PSP that had physical buttons. I thought there was one when you slid it open, underneath it had physical buttons as well.
Yes,
right.
There was the Xperia S and the Xperia U, which were the phone versions, and then there was the Xperia Play, which was more of a dedicated gaming version of that, and then there was the PSP Go, which was kind of the predecessor to this, but they took the controllers off that and stuck them on
glass.
The Xperia Play.
Oh, right, okay.
To make a phone that was hybrid with a gaming.
Very confusing. Console. What do you think that they might bring out tomorrow?
Well, folks, I will tell you that if they happen to just stand up there and go, the PlayStation Vita 2, I will actually, I'm not going to say the exact reaction, but because that's X-rated, but I will get very, very excited, because that will be too awesome for words, because I'm a big fan of the Vita and always have been. It was way ahead of its time. No, I think this... They've already announced that they were going to have an add-on, a PlayStation add-on for a phone that clicks in. So I do think that this is going to be more of a step toward turning PlayStation Now, which is now the PlayStation network plus premium package shizzle into a proper downloadable client. You can download the PlayStation PS Remote application out of Google Play at the moment, and then connect directly to your phone, or connect directly to your PlayStation 5. I reckon there's going to be a new client that is made available, a bit like Xbox Game Pass, to let people be able to access their gaming online through their computer, or through their tablet, or through their phone. And it's just going to be people sitting down with that piece of hardware that they've already released, using this streaming platform to access their PlayStation games catalog wherever they happen to be. I don't think it's going to be too exciting. It's not going to be a new piece of hardware. But I've been wrong before.
I just had a look at the Vita, and I remember having that now. I've forgotten all about it, and I agree with you. I loved it. It's just that I think what was against it was locked into Sony, so you had to just pay them loads of money to do anything with it.
It was the memory cards that killed it, because you couldn't get a decent amount of storage. Games were getting larger and larger, and for you to be able to buy a 32 gigabyte what was it, the Sony Memory Duo card, or whatever it was called, would cost you, almost £100 or something. It was stupidly priced. You couldn't just use an SD card. You can now.
Right. There
are ways around it, and you can get an adapter that allows you to put a micro SD card in there, but that's whenever they decided to kill it off. But I still have my Vita. It's in the drawer beside me, and I have picked it up from time to time recently and had a wee play. It's a great games console.
How could they improve it? What, with a Mark II, what would you think would make it better?
The Vita?
Yeah.
Oh, well, a micro SD, and it would basically turn into essentially what we were talking about previously, the GPD Win 4.
Right.
That's what they need to do. They can have a dedicated operating system on there that hooks into the PlayStation network. That would be fine. With a micro SD card and a decent amount of storage already therein, 32 gigabytes onboard memory. They don't even have to do much more with the specifications. They could just redo the Vita specs, because that'll probably run some sort of streaming software, or they could stick Android on there if they absolutely need to. Yeah, that would be wonderful. But just keep the old design, maybe a bigger screen. Yeah, grand. A touchscreen on the back, all the buttons, maybe a trigger on the back as well.
Very good.
I'd be all over that. Oh, that would be dead excited. It's exciting. And a camera as well, a front-facing and rear-facing camera with Sony optics in there.
And a phone GMS and turn it into a phone.
Yeah, based around the Xperia 5 4. Steve's doing some pretty good stuff on YouTube there about that. So just have all the hardware from that in the Vita 2. Yeah, that'll be exciting.
Yes.
Cool. And access to Xbox Game Pass, just to piss Nintendo or Microsoft off. All right. Well, as I hinted at there, I had been playing with my GameSir recently, and I decided, well, I'll just have a quick dip into Stadia and see how it is. And it's exactly as I left it. A couple of years ago, was it? No, I can't remember how long it was ago. But I think they've added maybe 2 or 3 games since then. And there's absolutely no reward in Stadia.
What happened to the monthly? I thought every month they were releasing games or something.
They kind of are, but they're games that I can't say that people are too excited about. I know that there's a very loyal backing for Stadia out there, and I'm not treading on your toes. You find something to love there, and I encourage that. I think Stadia could have been wonderful, but they're just not bringing the high rate of games that anyone is in any way excited about. And I just imagine that once the Steam Deck becomes something that you could buy off the shelf, people will just happily move into Steam, and every day Steam is adding more and more compatibility to their huge library of games that I don't see anyone making a valid argument that Stadia is going to be the be-all and end-all whenever Steam is doing so much work there to capture that lightning in a bottle. It's a real shame. I wanted Stadia to work, and it's just too expensive.
Perhaps Google will buy Steam.
No. Steam's on the up and up. Anyone who's bought shares in Steam in the last couple of years, you can stand there and go, ooh, these shares are going to be worth an absolute fortune in the future, because Steam's on the up and up, big time. Yeah. It's the third party. You've got Nintendo, Sony, Microsoft, I suppose. It's the fourth party. Steam is the other big alternative there. All right. Have you touched Stadia since it's September? Are you into Stadia this week?
No.
No?
The last time I touched it was the last time we spoke about it on the show, which is probably months ago. And I got the last controller I got. I moved on to Gareth Williams again. Hello, Gareth. And I never looked at it again since then, to be honest.
Right. Okay. Well, it's one of those things that I think is anyone who is new to us. Ted has bought a Steam package or a Stadia package several times, tried it, sold it, and then bought another one.
It's your fault.
And it was an ongoing joke that it was every week he just had a new Stadia thing, and the following week he got rid of it.
It's your fault.
And then the
your
next
fault.
week.
Your fault. I got an Evercade as well, which I never touched, and it's your fault that I bought a second-hand Nintendo Switch Lite, which I never touched. I just don't think I'm really into gaming anymore. And since the days, give me a Game Boy.
How's the Switch my fault? I didn't tell you to buy a Switch.
You
I didn't tell you to buy an Evercade either.
Yes,
you
you
followed
did.
me.
You lying hound.
Well, the recent announcements from Evercade are quite exciting. Are you not excited about any of those new
There you
packages?
go again, you see. You started again on me. I got an email from them the other day saying that this XP it's coming out, and would you like to buy one? Give us your £200, nearly. And
did you?
No, I didn't.
Well, you could sell your Evercade and then buy a new one.
I could do that. I should have done that while it was still in the box, shouldn't I? I've still got the 4 games that are doubled up. Perhaps I should try and flog those. Anyway. That's fine. I pick it up occasionally and have half an hour with it.
Well, there you go. What are you complaining about?
Yeah, because most normal people that were into gaming, it wouldn't be half an hour every month. It would be half an hour every day, or every few hours it would be half an hour. Or
well, then you need to work on that. You still admit that you enjoyed playing it, so it was a good purchase. You don't want to actually enjoy it. You hate things.
I just don't.
So you just enjoy giving yourself.
I think part of it is I don't really. I don't want to learn. I can't be bothered to learn new games. So put me in front of Angry Birds or Super Mario World or Tetris, and I'll be quite happy. But all those games that came with the Evercade, I know that you knew them really well, but I didn't know them, and so every single one of them you've got to sit down and learn. And I know what you're going to say. Well, that's part of the fun of it, learning a new game. But I just can't.
No, I'm going to say they're all really easy. It's like sitting down and learning how to play Super Mario Brothers. It's not a steep learning curve.
Right, okay. I'll try again then.
Yeah, go for it. Come on, let's hear you.
Okay.
Right. Moving into the Chrome Quarter. What's happening in Chrome? Wait, hang on a second.
Hang on.
There's a whole section. Holy crap, it's an hour and a half into the podcast and we're only just touching the app stuff.
Oh, dear.
Right, let's rattle through these
quick.
Really
This
quick.
is a quick one. This editing tweets feature apparently now is rolling out to New Zealand first, and you'll be allowed to edit your tweet in half an hour, which we already knew, but what we didn't know was they're going to allow you to change it 5 times in those 30 minutes. So if you want a 6th change, you've had it, even if you're inside the 30 minutes. And if it's over the 30 minutes, you've had it anyway. That was all.
Fair enough. Okay. Next up is the Microsoft SMS Organizer. I can't believe I hadn't heard of this before. It's fantastic. I downloaded and installed it this morning. It takes all your SMSs and sensibly works out what's good and what's bad and a bit like in Gmail, where it tends to, sort them all out for you. So whenever you have a banking thing, then it says, oh, we're going to send you this, input that code. It'll take it out of your SMSs and put it in a different section, so you can find it quite easily, or you can forget about it and it's not cluttering up your SMSs. Brilliant stuff. Well done, Microsoft, for doing something that Google should have done yonks ago.
Instead of mucking about with RCS and messaging, which they can't get right. Yeah, I've got a couple of people on the MeWe group that are field testing this. So hopefully everyone... I haven't downloaded it myself yet, but hopefully we can get some good feedback on that.
I just got a text message. Oh, it's gone into the appropriate section. It's great.
Oh, right, okay. I'll try it myself then.
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Not now, though. Tell us about network calling quality.
What's this one about?
Google are doing a new feature called Clear Calling.
Right. This is about Clear Calling, which apparently is something that is being rolled into the Android 13 QPR1 beta, which I've got on my Pixel 6a here, as I mentioned earlier. But I checked for this and it's not there. And apparently this is nicking the technology they've been using in the noise cancellation software in Google Meet, and they're applying it to telephone calls. It's not going to work with Wi-Fi calling yet, but it certainly should be working when it rolls out. And it may be America first, of course. When it rolls out, it should apply noise cancellation to telephone calls. And I'm looking out for the toggle to try it, and it's not there yet. So obviously we are second rate in the UK as usual.
Oh, that'll make us third rate. I live in Northern Ireland. We're second rate to the UK. Gmail is...
Sorry. Yeah, this is another really quick one, which is about Gmail taking away the in the Android app. I don't know about iOS, but in the Android app, they've taken away the labels on the icons at the bottom of the page, which gives you more room at the bottom of the page, which is great, very sensible. And I never really understood why they had the words underneath the icon anyway. You either have the words or the icons, but you don't really need both, because people will know what it means in time anyway. So I think that's a really good move, and it's arrived on my devices already. Yours?
That's not something that's ever bothered me, because I've got a 6.6-inch screen, and I've got loads of space.
I don't need any more beer because I've got enough. This is the logic.
Yeah. My pint is half full.
I don't need any more money because actually I'm all right. I've got enough. Yes.
All right. Gmail for Android is now going to show search filters in this freed up space that they've just freed up when viewing labels and folders.
Oh yeah, but the space is only used when you go to search, and this should be working for you as well. So up the top, we've spoken about this before, but we haven't seen it rolled out yet, and it is rolled out now. It rolled out in the last couple of weeks or so, and I can see that. So if you tap on the search field, it gives you filters to search your email, which is actually quite useful, assuming it's in the synchronized data.
I can't remember the last time I opened Gmail on my phone, to be honest.
Fair enough.
I'd open up my tablet, my lap, or my Chromebook, and my desktop a lot more often than I actually do on the phone.
Fair enough.
Weird. Anyway, so what's happening with Google Chrome? We're getting battery saver mode, eh?
Another quick one. There's lots of quick ones. You didn't need to worry about the time. This is there's a battery saver mode coming to Chrome OS, which will sit up in your top corner of your display, and you can just click on it to turn it on and off. That's it, basically. The news really is the fact that they're going to introduce a battery saver mode and they're turning Chromebooks into Android phones really, and introducing one by one all the features that you'd expect on your phone but on your Chromebook, and that's one of them, battery saver mode, which does what it says on the tin. And this one is for you, really. From what I understand about it, Chrome OS bringing keyboard support to Android games, it looks like it's what it says, really, which is that up to now you've not been able to map keys to control games on Chrome OS, on Chromebooks. or the best you could have hoped for so far was the kind of the cluster at WASD, whatever you call it. But now it seems they're going to allow users to map whatever keys they like. Is that how you understand it?
Yeah. I can't think of any time that I've ever noticed that as a problem before. I have used Steam on my Chromebook in the past, and I've played first-person shooters just to see how badly they've run, and they've worked fine with the default control method.
Yeah,
but then I suppose some people do want to change, your reload button or something like that,
yeah.
something else. But I'd never noticed that was actually a problem in the past.
I told you it was quick.
It was, yes. That's superb. So we'll talk to you next week. Bye. Right, we're going to keep with you, Ted, because you're going to tell us about a wee bit of a hark back to something that's close to all of our hearts.
Yeah, the Nexus 7, which is, you're right. Everyone I know that had a Nexus 7 absolutely loved it, and still, in some cases, still do. I do know one person at least who still uses the Nexus 7 as their device, coffee table device. And it came out in 2012, the first generation of it, and it was a game changer in some ways because it just kind of, it was simple, and it had 1 gig of memory, it had Wi-Fi, and it had a small amount of storage on it, no micro SD card, and it was released on Jelly Bean, so Android 4.1. And it was just, it had huge bezels, and but it was dinky in the hand, and it was just a delight to use, and you could turn it round for consuming media, and it was the way that, tablets should have been evolving from there on. So much so that in the next year, the second generation, they brought out an updated version of it with a better chipset, more RAM, 2 gigs of RAM, a more clear screen, stereo speakers, Qi charging, and a port to get HDMI out to a TV or whatever. They slimmed down the bezels, although it was still a very tall device. And we're talking here about a 7-inch screen, which is, the sweet spot, I think. If there was a Nexus 7 that came out now, I think it would sell like hotcakes. I don't know why they're not doing it. Especially if they got rid of the chin and the forehead on the second generation 2013 version, pepped up all the specs, made it all happen. I think that Google would do really well with that. Instead of leaving it to the likes of Lenovo to knock out junk and crap at that size, the best you can hope for is, like an Amazon Fire device or whatever. We spoke about the Nokia T10 last week. Okay, that's going to be a little bit bigger. Nothing is as dinky as this Nexus 7, and the second generation just made it a more polished result as well. It was thinner. It was just a really nice thing to hold in the hand, and because of those chin and forehead things going on, you also had somewhere to hold the device while you were watching videos or whatever. So there's a good side to the chin and the forehead, but I think that's not the way people want to go these days, and if they did bring out a new one, it would be very different in that respect. But yeah, the second generation device, marked improvements, and I just loved it, and a lot of people I know loved it, and I'm sure you're going to say the same thing. And don't understand why there isn't one out there now, up to date and working, instead of farting about with Nexus 9 and 10 and none of these Nexus devices and Pixel devices in terms of tablets just seem to have done anything or gone anywhere, and I think it's a real shame. You were loving it too?
I was, yeah. I had the original Nexus 7 and I used it far beyond its lifetime, I think. I do remember picking up a really costly stand for it as well. There was this sort of big heavy thing that you slotted the Nexus 7 down into in its landscape mode. And it could also be an alarm clock and that sort of thing. It was that sort of step toward like a home assistant as well, because they would bring up it would show stuff on the screen and like a screensaver, and you would be able to interact with it and show photographs and stuff. I think I gave that to my brother-in-law, actually, whenever I finished using it. But, the Nexus line became the the most exciting thing. The Nexus 10 came along after that. Well, it was built by Samsung and was based around its Galaxy Note 10 as well. That was a beautiful device. I loved that. That was whenever I moved from the Nexus 7 to the Nexus 10. It had a dual-core processor, which was a wee bit behind what other devices were coming out with. They were coming out with quad-core. And I remember thinking, is this really a dual-core? And it felt that it wasn't as fast as some of the other things that Samsung was bringing out at the time. And it had this the side-mounted front-facing speakers that you would cover up with your hands whenever you were trying to use, because they were just right at the very sides. I felt that was the first time that Nexus started to fall slightly, although I did love the Nexus 10 because of the legacy of the Nexus 7. It kept it going there as well. The backing of the Nexus 7 too was kind of bizarre. It was very plastic, and it had all these little indentations on it that would allow it to be anti-slip as well. Yeah, it was a great device.
Yeah.
It really was, and I don't think we've ever had as good value as the Nexus 7 had at the time that it was released, because it was dirt cheap.
Yeah.
And it did everything. There was nothing else like it on the market, and it was the perfect implementation of Android. And it felt like the world was going to get a lot more sensible when it came to electronics, because the iPad Mini cost a fortune compared to this. And I think they won over an awful lot of people, and that was the whole strategic point of the Nexus 7, was to give people an idea of how much value for money they could have with Android. But they never quite carried it on. The Nexus 10, whenever it arrived, was a lot more expensive because it was made by Samsung. And the Nexus 7 2013 version was a good bit more expensive than it could have been.
I think it was 199 quid, wasn't it?
But did the Nexus 7 2013, was it not a wee bit more?
Was it? Okay.
I vaguely remember, because I was tempted to upgrade to it, but it was just a wee bit too expensive, and I thought, no, I'll stick with what I've got.
Right.
I'm not getting rid of this just yet. I've only had it a year.
Right.
And I was trying to get a free one, actually. I remember Matt from Tracy and Matt saying, "Oh, I'm going to send you the new Nexus 7 2013." But I never got it, and I was dead excited about it, because it was at the time where I wanted it, but I wasn't going to justify paying for it.
What I had forgotten until I just looked at the specs here was that there was a Lineage OS build for it going forward, which went up to version 18. However, I've just checked on the Lineage site, and there's no mention of it now. So presumably they've stopped supporting it and developing for it because it's made by ASUS. I do remember putting Lineage on one of them, because it had frustratingly become dropped by Google and not supported anymore. And I thought, that's so annoying, because it's such a nice little tablet. And I put Lineage on it, and I did have it working at one time. But presumably, if you put Lineage on it, it would have updated to a certain place, and it would have been far in advance still now than it would be if you just left it as Google abandoned it.
Which was on 5.1.
Was it?
Yeah, it says here March 2015, the Nexus 7 was upgraded to 5.1, but that's the original Nexus. I'm not sure where that.
Right. Oh, here we go.
2013.
Lineage 17 is based on Android 10, so it was still being supported up to Android 10 by Lineage. Probably not 11 though.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, if you had one still now and you put Android 10 on it, Lineage 17, then you could certainly still use it very happily, even though it wasn't getting any further updates. Yeah, a really nice device.
Now I think about it, the Nexus 10 that I had, I sold it on eBay, and it went to Russia. The person who bought it from me was from Russia. Yeah, I wonder where it is now. The Nexus line was a wonderful line. It had its problems, its ups and downs, but initially on its inception, the Nexus 1 and the Nexus 7 were two terrific devices.
Oh yeah, I love my Nexus 1. I imported that from America on day one. I was in the pre-orders for that, and I was so excited the day it arrived. I was just bowled over by it. Nexus 1, yeah, gorgeous.
Google gave me one, actually, when I was out in Mobile World Congress.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there were 2 queues at the launch of it or something like that, or whatever the keynote was. On the left you could queue for a Nexus 1, or on the right you could queue for a Motorola Milestone.
Oh yeah.
And I was debating. I was like, I like the idea of having the keyboard, but no, I was torn. And I'd only just bought myself a Touch Pro 2 Windows phone, and I had taken it away with me to that conference and thought, we'll see how well I get on with this with the slide out QWERTY keyboard and stuff like that. And I walked out with that Nexus 1 and was like, oh, well, forget that Touch Pro 2. It's going in the bin.
I like the multicolour kind of rollerball on the chin. I love that. Even though, you've obviously got touchscreen as well, but it was, you could assign different colours to flashing it, and it was a ground. That's what we should do on Heartback, really, is the Nexus 1, now that you've mentioned it. Because it was such a fabulous, lovely phone.
We'll do that next week, actually. I'll get my Nexus 1 out and charge it as well.
Great.
Because I still have mine.
Excellent, well done.
I think I do. And now they released this... No, we'll talk about it next week, yeah. Right, okay, Bargain Basement. We'll start gearing up toward the end of the podcast here. Why not? Right. Because it's an hour and 45. And my wife, that message that I got through there was my wife saying, do you want a McDonald's? And she's going to arrive home with McDonald's. Ooh. My stomach's already rumbling. I know it's not the best food in the world, but I had a few drinks last night and it just sounds so appealing. Yes. Ted, we'll start with me, actually, because I'm first on the list. Over on Amazon at the moment, you've got the Integral V series, which is the 1 terabyte SATA 3 2.5 inch internal SSD. It's £54.99. 1 terabyte. Now, this isn't an NVMe, this is a slightly slower architecture, but it does 520 megabytes per second read and 470 megabytes read speed, which is really nice. Yeah, if you've got a laptop that takes one of these, I'd get one of those fired in there. 1 terabyte of storage on maybe an older laptop, and then you could stick Chrome OS on it. Oh, it'd be blindingly fast. Fantastic. 54 quid for this. Brilliant.
Yeah, pretty good, isn't it? Some things, the prices are going through the ceiling, and other things are really, really well done. So,
yeah.
Fancy, we spoke about OLED TVs a while ago, didn't we? And I was saying to you, yes. If you went to buy a TV, is it something you would look for? Well, I happened to stumble into this LG OLED TV, 4K smart TV, 30% off. It's 2,700 quid normally, and it's now 18.99 on Amazon. And I did a bit of reading up about this, and apparently, certainly according to What Hi-Fi, they are all raving about the quality of this thing and how good it is and what a good deal it is and how wonderful the speakers are built into it and the screen is spankingly good. I mean, at that kind of price, you'd have to be in there for a top-notch TV anyway. But, 30% off.
Yeah, I remember having this conversation. I think it was over Twitter with Mike Warner, perhaps, about the energy classing of TVs. They actually brag at the top of this that it's energy class F.
Oh, yeah.
If you stuck that on a freezer, people would be going, oh, God, I'm not touching that with a barge pole. But energy class F. Mm-hmm. So that must be good when it comes to TVs.
Right.
I suppose it's not something that you keep on 24/7. It's something that you maybe use for a short period of time in the evening, maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then it automatically turns off itself if you've accidentally left it on. But Energy Class F must be good for a 4K TV.
Yeah, I suppose so. I have not looked into that. But yes, you're right. You'd be looking normally for your washing machine for A, wouldn't you? Not F.
Or A+++ as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus. But I do remember at the time of the conversation, I had a quick look into it to see what what standards they were, and I can't remember any of the takeaway from that conversation. So maybe someone else out there who is more knowledgeable and clever than us in general could tell us, is Energy Class F worth bragging about? Can we get Energy Class A+++ TVs out there?
We'll get some feedback for the next show if it kills us.
Hopefully, yeah. Give us something to talk about. Extend our length, because we could come in under 2 hours. Now that we've efficiently talked about all our stories quite earlier on, quite so well. Yes, back to gadgets and bargains. We have the Amazon Basics AAA high-capacity rechargeable batteries. There's a 24-pack that you can get for £15 and 38p, which I thought was pretty darn good value, especially now that we've got a cost of living crisis. Who knows where batteries might come into use? It's not going to heat your house. I wouldn't say throwing these on the fire might be a good idea, but batteries do help in ways. So they're dirt cheap at the moment. By contrast, over on Amazon as well, you can get a 100-pack of Amazon Basics AA batteries. Ted, that'll be the way to your heart, for £14 and 9p. For 100
100 for 15 quid. That's outrageous.
Yeah. And they last for ages too. Yeah. They won't leak by the end of the day, so you'll be great.
Oh, these are not the industrial ones, but even so, 100 batteries.
Yes,
they're
keep your TV remote control going for
years.
They're
15p each.
Excellent maths usage there. Well
That's
done.
Amazing, isn't it? How on earth do they do that? Good grief.
And you can subscribe to them as well and save.
Yeah.
Flip. Sorry, folks. I've just realised that button is checked here. So if you were to subscribe to them, they're £14. To buy them as a one-off purchase, they're £16 and 58p. I apologise. How much of the AAAs? I'll go.
What's
for
the 15% thing for?
£16 and 19p. If you subscribe to 5 things, then they'll knock 15% off. So if you subscribe to batteries, Head and Shoulders, toothpaste and stuff like that, you get £15 off. Total amount.
I got you.
Very handy. Good saving.
Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. 100 batteries for that price. Amazing. I always fancied one of these Mises because it's the Razer Viper Ultimate and it's got a charging stand. And I know that we've gone on about our Logitech stuff till we're blue in the face, and it's great and all that, but having a little charging stand just is so cool, isn't it? This has been reduced by 47% to 90 quid. Actually, it's gone up since I put it in the show notes, but even so, 90 quid from 170 quid with the charging stand included, blah, 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 the dock, as they call it. And I'm being offered 5 times 18 quid on that. I mustn't get it, though, because I've just got a Logitech one, and it's very, very nice indeed. But, yeah, Razer Viper Ultimate. Cool.
Yeah, also below that, I'm being offered a Save On Open Box, like new, £47 and 51p. Ooh. So someone's obviously opened the box and sent it back.
Yeah.
That'll be worth a gamble.
I'm not seeing that. It's obviously somebody in Ireland.
Amazon warehouse fulfilled by Amazon. You're not seeing that? Right. I could order it today.
Oh, yes,
Friday.
Yes, I can. I've got it. Yeah, 47.51. Yes.
I wonder why they opened it and went, no. They probably just opened it, stuck it up their arse, and then put it back in the box and flogging it for £47.
I can see why they would do that. I ordered something that was open box, like new. It was a blender, a food blender, a hand blender. And I thought, this is great. And in fact, I even put it on Whatever Works and was raving about it. And then about a month later, I went to use it and it blew up and stopped working. And it was just over the return window for Amazon because they banged on about the fact that you get the same 28 return window, 28 day. And it was just after that. And it just blew up and that was it, gone. So I saved £5 on the device. But actually, I'd have to go and buy another one then. So beware.
Thankfully, thankfully you related to that side of the story that, as opposed to this shoving up of ours. Anyway, I got a hand blender. It turned out it stank.
Yes, it was stinking.
Why anyone would do that is beyond me. Sorry, folks. Sorry. It is Tech Addicts after all. You would be disappointed if we didn't descend into filth. All right. I promised at the top of the show that I would go into one of the little power-saving things that I had worked out. I'm absolutely exhausted at the moment. I'm really, really tired. I'm having trouble putting words together. I'm sure that's coming across. But we'll go with this. The TP-Link Tapio Smart Plug Wi-Fi Outlet. This is a pack of 4 smart plugs. Now, I've been banging on about smart plugs for ages, but I spent some time during the week going around my house and organising my smart plugs so that I can actually make efficient use of saving electricity. So I have one on the back of my TV, and I've looked at it and gone, right, I've got my TV, my PlayStation, my Android NVIDIA Shield, and my surround sound system all plugged in through it, so that at the end of the day I can say, hey gee, turn off the living room TV, so it all powers down off one vocal command. Or I can just use my Pixel 6 to actually click it and turn it off. The same on my computer here. I have my surge protector, which I have my whole desktop PC plus my work laptop actually plugged into, heavy duty device, and it's hooked up to a smart plug as well, so I can just power it all down, and then at the end of the day just hit that button and it'll turn everything that's attached to my computer off until I turn it back on again myself. And I think that's a really good step toward actually, just economizing your house. Things that we've taken for granted, so you can be sure that certain things aren't left on standby. I have little bits and pieces that are hooked up to the computer, and even the computer itself, the power thing has RGB built into it. And I noticed the other day whenever I was around moving my Logitech USB Wi-Fi thing, the wireless connector, from one USB port to another, because it was being a wee bit of a dick. I looked in through the grill at the back and noticed that there was a green glow from my processor, or from my CPU, PSU. That's the one, the PSU. And I just thought, that's an LED that's burning away all day, every day, even if I turn my computer off. So, I've just gone round and I've worked out, and I've sensibly relayed my plugs into things that I can vocally turn off and then turn on whenever I want to use them. These make it possible. There are some out there as well that have energy monitoring, so you can see the amount of energy that's going through to the devices that you're using. These aren't a pack of those, but you can get ones with energy monitoring, and it'll give you a bit of a better idea of how much electricity that setup is actually using, and might cost you over the duration of it, whenever it's on standby or whenever it's fully turned on. But I think that's just a wee bit scary. I don't want to see that. I don't want to see how much my computer costs me when it's on running 24/7 with its Plex server running as well and things like that. So, it helps me be a wee bit more energy conscious, and I feel a bit better as well whenever I turn it off and know that the computer or the TV just isn't costing me money right now. That's a good thing.
Well done. $28.99, and there's also
I forgot to say that.
£1.45 voucher as well. So that makes it $27.50 or thereabouts, and that makes them 27 divided by 4 is under £7 each, isn't it? £6 something each.
It is. Thank you for doing all the legwork, because I forgot to say what the product really was. I read out the top and then went off into a rant. Yeah. It's down from £50 to £28.99, and as Ted has pointed out, there's extra details or extra money off there as well for a 4-pack.
Yeah. So you could control all your devices using Home, even if you're in Istanbul at the time.
Yeah, you can plug your your tumble dryer in this as well. And if your wife decides to do a wee bit of a cheeky bit of tumble drying while she's out, you can punish her. Turning it off and say, use the clothes horse, woman.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, I have things on standby all the time. My TV is never turned off at the wall. And my logic is that tiny, weeny little LED glowing red in the corner of the TV, surely, for goodness, I mean, if you turn that off, what really are you going to save? Like £1 a year or something? Surely it's minute amounts of electricity, isn't it?
But it all adds up. Whenever you've got 3 or 4 of them, before you know that, that's £3 over the course of the year. But those £3 are now exponentially more expensive. And the price of that has gone up by, say, 200%. So it's now £8 in a year that you're paying out. I know that's not very much, but it's still
okay, fair enough.
Added on to the top of it, and it all just adds up.
Indeed. Look after the pennies, and the pounds will look after them.
And the polar bears will thank you for it as well.
Yeah. Samsung Galaxy S20 FE, of which I have one here, although it's the 256GB version. This is the 128, and it's been reduced from 599 to 319, and it's the 4G Exynos version, not the 5G one I've got here. But even so, it has got micro SD. So even though it's 128GB, it's got micro SD card in it. The last generation of Samsungs that seems to be getting it, and it's still got 2 more years of updates. So one more update to Android 13, and then another year of quarterly updates after that. So one might consider at 319, it's a really, really, really capable phone, and much sought after and much loved by those that have got them.
Are you seeing that button below it that says trade in and save?
I haven't gone to the page yet. Stand by. Trade in and save. Trade in and save. Where is it?
That's under the price, under where it says you save.
That plugs into the Samsung deal, doesn't it?
But I would suggest going back and having a look at the Amazon Basics high-capacity rechargeable batteries.
Right.
It also has a trade-in and save option. I did click on it thinking that it was going to say, trade in your old Duracell ones for these new Amazon Basic ones, but no, it's saying trade in your Apple, Samsung, Google, OnePlus phone, Huawei phone to be able to get these basic batteries.
Oh, it's that one, is it? Yeah. That Amazon trade-in thing, they don't care whatever you're buying. They'll just give you the amount of money that your thing is worth. It's immaterial about what you're buying. You could do it with a 10p lolly stick, and they'll just. It's not really a trade-in. It's just it's we'll buy your gear off you.
Right. I'm just going through all the things in my my basket that I'm looking to buy maybe next week, and just to see if I could trade in an old phone and get myself the 0 water 10 cup water jug filter. But it's not on that. Damn it.
Yeah,
but I can get my Amazon Basic.
There is quite a limited list of stuff that you can trade in.
Yeah. All right. Argos, not quite Amazon this time, but starting with the same letter. Argos are selling Ted's favourite Nokia T20, the 10.4-inch 64GB with 4GB of RAM Wi-Fi tablet. They've knocked the price down from £179.99p to £139.99p. That's a pretty good offer. It's got something to do with the T21 arriving fairly soon, and probably the T10 as well. So they're clearing out their shelves to be able to make way for the newer model. Why not try and pick up a bit of a bargain, because there's not that much of a difference between the T21 and the T20.
No, it's all aesthetic, as we were saying last week, mainly. But that's a real good deal, isn't it? All that tablet for $139.99. Very, very good indeed.
I wonder if there's any accessories actually available for it.
You can get a case.
Well, I did get one from my son, but I would like to get that one that you got. But I'd like to get it a little bit cheaper than what you paid for it.
Well, I didn't, because it was half price.
Oh, did you not?
Yeah.
All right.
But if anyone paid the full £50 price for it, they must have been nuts.
I wonder what the T21 will fit it.
Yeah, very unlikely, isn't it? In fact, it won't, because one of the big pluses about the T21 is that it's redesigned casing and it's all different shape and it's thinner and there's no way it will fit. No. Blue Snowball is last. Blue Snowball USB microphone. This is the proper one and not the ice one, because the ice one is got a one condenser less or something, and it's not so good. So the ice Blue Snowball is good for, generally chatting to people on your computer or Zoom calls or whatever. But this Blue Snowball USB I've got it as a backup microphone for podcasting if needed, and it works absolutely fine. It's a good microphone that does the job. Condenser microphone with different patterns. Oh, that's the other thing about the ice one. You don't get the different patterns on it, so you can't use it for different functions in that way. Anyway, this has been reduced from 75 quid to 65, 10 quid off, and it's worth having for anyone who might occasionally be a guest on a podcast, for example. It's a very, very good little microphone. Recommended.
Yeah, I'm just having a look at it. There's a picture of it sitting in front of two strange-looking blokes, and it looks really nice. The kind of circular silver ball on top of a...
Yeah, that is the silver. The silver one is the cheapest one. My one is the black colour, and it's very nice looking. And you get the little tripod with it, of course, and a cable. But you don't have to use the tripod. You could roll it about the desk if you like.
Might impact the audio somewhat. But no, I think it looks best in the silver, to be honest, there.
I did at one point have it on the end of my microphone stand.
Oh, thank goodness
so you could have it. You can arrange it how you like. You don't have to use the stand. The stand's not attached to it. You can replace it with whatever arrangement you like.
Excellent.
And it's not a knob on a knob.
I wouldn't have dared to suggest that. You filthy mongrel, you. All right. If you want to get in touch with us, you can by emailing us at gareth@techaddicts.uk. We're also on Twitter as well, at techaddictsuk. You can find me on Twitter as well. There's at Gareth Miles, MYLES. I have a .com that features stuff about me and things. Ted, where can they find you?
They can find me at tedsalmon.com, and everything I do goes from there. So all of the audio podcasts, all of the MeWe groups, links to everything, head to tedsalmon.com. And if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do that at paypal.me/tedsalmon, which will be very much appreciated.
Excellent. And for those of you astute enough to have worked out, my McDonald's has arrived, and it's in the kitchen currently. So I'm ending the podcast. Take care, and we'll speak to you all next week. Bye.